Hi, my name is Reverend Dale Brown, and I have the great privilege of being the senior pastor at the Cooperative Parish of Community Church at Ocean Pines, Trinity United Methodist Church, and Bates United Methodist Churches. It's a real privilege for all of us to be together as United Methodists in worship and service to others and especially to God. So welcome today as we have this devotional moment. This week I'm going to do a series of 4 stories about things that happen to pastors. And I think the illustrations of what happened to pastors, because at the bottom level we are people too, will be suggestive and helpful for all who listen to these devotionals. So let me begin. One of my favorite college professors was a man named Calvin Schenck. Calvin and his family had been missionaries in Africa, and they came back to the U.S., and he was both the chaplain of the school and a professor. And I took a class from him in the Gospel of John. I've always been a newspaper junkie, and this was back when newspapers actually were made of paper. And so I was reading the newspaper and reading the Bible and doing all these things. And one day in class, Calvin suggested that we read the Bible in one hand and the newspaper in the other. And I thought that was the smartest thing anybody had ever said. A few years later, I'm reading a biography of a great preacher, and I found out where Dr. Schenck got that idea. It was actually from Harry Emerson Fosdick, who was the pastor of Riverside Church in New York City, the turn of the 1900s and early 1900s, and a great preacher and teacher in his own right. I think the suggestion is important. We were in Bible study last Tuesday, and one of the ladies asked me, what do we do with all that's happening in the world? What do we do with all the things that is going on? How do we handle all the disruption and pain and hurt that happens? And I would say to you that the best way to do that is through the lens of the Bible. As we read about all the things that are happening, we're called to love and serve and feed and help and strengthen. And we're called not to take on simply the world's perspective, but we're called to view things as distinctly Christian people who want to be followers and disciples of Jesus. So whatever story you might read about in the newspaper, it's entirely appropriate to try to find a Bible verse that accompanies it or would suggest how we might respond, and then to pray over it. I think in doing that, we bring to both the Bible a relevance for what's happening in our world today, and also to the event a sense in which God does have a response. There is a place and a part for God to play, and for we as his disciples to be engaged and involved. So Harry Emerson Fosdick is the one who originated it, as far as I know. But maybe when we read the Bible, we ought to be reading the Bible in one hand and the newspaper in the other. God is active and involved and relevant for every day of our lives. God bless and have a great day.